Hello and welcome to my channel. Talk about inflation in America, guys. This is really something we need to address because it's getting worse. The numbers of people complaining about inflation hitting people differently is overwhelming. Who isn't complaining? People are trying to do everything possible to just keep up, but the money is just not enough to sustain the cost of living. Gone are the days when only a man of the house was the only one working. Now, even when a couple is working, their income can't still sustain the family. A salary of two people, guys, failing, not being enough. It's not even funny, but if the last 40 years repeats itself in 2063, then we'll see shocking prices. Now, my question is, how are you guys surviving? How are you making it with inflation at all-time high? Am I the only person who seems to be concerned about this? I bet not, because these videos will just prove to us how this has really affected a lot of Americans. Let's take a look at them.
Guys, I don't know how the average American is making it right now, because from the looks of it, things are just going to hell. For example, if you want to rent an apartment, the landlord wants proof of income 3 times the rent. And out here in northern New Jersey, that means a 1-bedroom, you got to be making 30 to 50% more than the national average. The groceries have gone up like crazy. It's like, it seems like it keeps creeping up ever so slightly, but after 3-4 months, you feel like it's a you feel the increase. Because last year, I would be shopping for myself alone twice a week, and it would run me about $80 each trip. Now it's costing me like $125 to $140 per trip. And when I include going out maybe once or twice a week to eat, my total for food is coming out to be crazy. It's over $1,000. And I know it wasn't like that growing up, it's gotten out of hand. But people are walking around like nothing's wrong, everything is fine, everything is dandy. But it won't be long before people are gonna have to decide whether to pay the rent, pay the mortgage, or feed their families. And of course, people are gonna choose to feed their families. And so, who knows what's gonna happen? But I was at the mall the other day and it was pretty packed. But there wasn't really that many people holding bags. It was just people hanging around window shopping, which doesn't mean squat. It just means people want to get out of their houses and hang around, maybe eat at the food court. And that the food court was popping, of course. But we're going to have to wait and see. I foresee a lot more shoplifting, a lot of stores going out of business because of that. And there's going to be a lot of break-ins, a lot of cars being stolen, a lot of parts being stolen, wheels, catalytic converters, which is already happening, but it's gonna more and more people are gonna want to do it because they have no other way. More and more people are gonna turn to scamming and stealing and all that stuff because things have gotten so expensive. So we'll see. What's the solution? The only solution is for the banks and the Federal Reserve to forgive all debt. That's the only way. There's no other solution. Even if we took 20 nations to war and gave them money to buy from us, it still wouldn't help the situation.
If the last 40 years repeats itself, in 2063, we'll see these prices. A new car will cost about $136,000. The average rent will be about $9,000 a month. The gas price will be about $13 a gallon. An average home will cost about $1.9 million. And the average salary will be about $100,000 a year. Now look, we can laugh about these numbers all we want because they are pretty comical. But unfortunately, we live in a clown world. And this might just happen because inflation, like all other things, unfortunately compounds. Remember back in 2008 when the world was melting and Ben Bernanke came out with these huge stimulus packages, people criticized him because they thought, oh my God, $500 billion, that's wild. $700 billion, that's insane. And then whenever the lockdowns occurred in 2020 and we printed trillions upon trillions of dollars, they said the same exact thing. They're like, oh my God, that's insane. That's so much money. Well, the next time something happens and they pivot and they print money, how much do you think it's going to be? It's not going to be single digit trillion. It's going to be tens of trillions of dollars. AOC already said she wants to implement a $90 trillion spending initiative on climate. That should give you an idea of how much we are going to inflate this currency away over the course of time. Not only that, but our world is just getting harder. Gas prices are going to go up because, simply put, there's not going to be enough gas. Saudi Arabia is already reducing the amount of gas it's selling. Russia has cut off exports entirely. In the US, well, we just don't want to frack for shit here, which is a shame because we really could, and our gas would be a lot cheaper. And unfortunately, gas goes into every one of these other things. It goes into how much your car costs. It goes into how much the rent is because you need gas for a lot of things that build a fucking house, or at least go in the house. So you see where this is going. If you don't start making and investing money now, you're never gonna get rich. And I'm saying this in a position of absolute fear. I am fearful every day that I'm not gonna make enough because, quite frankly, we don't know how much it's gonna take. It might take an ungodly number that none of us are gonna be able to reach. And if that's the case, so be it. But we gotta try because there's no nobility in throwing in the towel. And I am not trying to be caught in this slavery mess.
I am so tired of feeling helpless as a parent. Yes, my kids are grown adults. My oldest is 28, my youngest is 25. And I thought by teaching them what I learned, which is you work hard, you get a good job, you're going to get the things in life that you need, right? Worked for me, why wouldn't it work for them? Because it doesn't. Because the world has fucking changed, all right? And now I feel like I see them struggling. And before my generation comes at me, yes, I understand struggling is a part of life. We all struggled. But there's a difference between struggling and drowning, all right? So we struggled and it was tough. But you know what? We made it. We knew there was a light at the end of the tunnel with our struggle. It seems like kids today, no matter how much they struggle, they just get further and further down the water into the drowning point, all right? When I was their age, I was making less than $10 an hour, and I could afford to live on my own. Now you have to be making six-figure salary to get a decent, tiny little place to live. So what the fuck is going on, and how do we help them as parents? I told my son, all you have to do is work hard, go to college, or join the military like I did. He went to college, got his degree, got a full-time job. He moved back in with me right when he graduated from college because he said, hey, Mom, as soon as I get a job, which was within 2 weeks of him getting out of college, maybe take me 2 months and I'll save up enough money for me to move out. Okay, cool. It's been 10 months. He has saved almost every dime and still can't afford to live. Why are one-bedroom studio apartments almost $2,000 a month? Why? Like, I just don't get it. So I don't even think that there's even classes anymore. There used to be, upper class, middle class, lower class. It's literally turning into the ultra wealthy and then everybody else is just poor. Like, that's what is happening. And then I told him, hey, when you turn 25, at least your car insurance will go down. Hell no, he turned 25 and his car insurance went up $150. I tell him, if you need health insurance, get a good job. He has health insurance. He has had a medical emergency this week. Had to go to an emergency room twice. He had to go to the emergency room because he couldn't get anybody to see him with the health insurance that he had. Right? So he had to go to an emergency room. Now he's out money for that too. It seems like you can never get ahead. And then my daughter, I told her all you have to do because she wanted to buy her own house. My daughter worked 6 days a week, 12 hours a day to save up enough for this down payment. Finally got this house. She's paying double what I'm paying for my mortgage, but her loan was the same amount. And then her mortgage company, after she's already moved in, said, oh, by the way, we forgot to tell you that you need this type of coverage, which we forgot in the beginning. That's an extra $200 you've been paying a month. And all they see when they come home is they watch social media, kids their age, on lavish vacations with all this money and nothing to do, all these social media influencers, because we value those types of things over hard workers. We will pay them $10,000, but you work 40 hours a week, you can't afford it.
Man, on how people are making it right now in America with inflation at an all-time high, people that are making $35 an hour, $40 an hour are still broke. So you wonder, am I the only one feeling this? I know you guys are driving around in your city, seeing people still at the grocery stores, still in the fast food lines, still acting as everything is normal. But there's one thing that, if you haven't noticed, people are not using their money to survive right now. They're using credit cards. And if you look at America's credit card usage right now, it's at an all-time high. Most families are already maxed out. And I'm going to tell you one thing that's going to send everything into let's say a bad spot. They're not going to pay these credit cards back. They're spending knowing that they're not going to pay these credit cards back. And so now that these people's credit cards are maxed out and credit companies are no longer giving them money to survive and buy their food, because we don't have any help in our food. If you make money like I make money, you go to that grocery store, or your wife goes, because I haven't been in that grocery store in I don't know how long, but my wife goes to the grocery store. And if we don't spend $600 or $700 on a grocery trip, I'm surprised. But my situation is different. I have a lot of kids, but you wonder how people are making it out here, and they are not making it off their own money. Plus, let's put the other thing in perspective. You have the government saying that job numbers are through the roof. They have created so many jobs and people are taking these jobs. And that's not true. The fact of the matter is, people are taking on second jobs and third jobs just to put food on the table for their family. Mind you, in the richest country in the world, something's not right. If you are somebody out there surviving right now, taking care of your kids, and your money's going up, I salute you. But 99% of people right now, their pockets are suffering badly, to the point where the government even said that by the end of this month, most likely 99% of Americans will have run out of any savings. Wow. This is crazy.
What really is inflation? Let's talk about it, guys. Inflation is the rate of increase in prices over a given period of time. It's typically a broad measure such as the overall increase in prices or the increase in the cost of living in a country. A U.S. inflation rate is at 3.70% compared to 3.67% last month and 8.20% last year. Now, this is higher than the long-term average of 3.28%. The U.S. inflation rate is the percentage in which a chosen basket of goods and services purchased in U.S. increase in price over a year. Now, it's one of the metrics used by the U.S. Federal Reserve to gauge the health of the economy. Now, since 2012, the Federal Reserve has targeted 2% inflation rate for the U.S. economy and may make changes to monetary policy if inflation is not within the range. Now, a notable time for inflation was the early 1980s during the recession. Inflation rates were as high as 14.93%, causing the Federal Reserve, led by Paul Volcker, to take dramatic actions. Now, inflation was unchanged in September, but price pressures seem poised to continue their broad and gradual easing in coming months. According to economics, in September, the consumer price index increased 3.7% from 12 months earlier, the same rate as in August. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics said the cost reading is a significant improvement on the COVID pandemic era peak of 9.1% in June 2022. Now, the highest rate since November 1981. The speed of the decline is always going to be uncertain, said Andrew Hunter, Deputy Chief U.S. Economist at Capital Economics. But data suggests inflation should be falling rather than rising. Now, the CPI is a key barometer of inflation, measuring how quickly the prices of anything from fruits and vegetables, haircuts, and concert tickets are changing across the U.S. economy. Economists say it will take a while for it to return to normal, stable levels. The Federal Reserve aims for a 2% annual inflation rate over the long term, but Fed officials don't expect that to happen until 2026. Now, gas prices were up 2.1% in September on a monthly basis, a major contributor to inflation. When assessing underlying inflation trends, economists generally like to look at a measure that strips out energy and food prices, which tend to be volatile for month to month. Now, shelter, the average household biggest expense, has accounted for more than 70% of that total increase in the core CPI over the past year. Housing inflation increased in September to its highest monthly rate since May. Other categories with notable increases in the past year include motor vehicle insurance up to 18.9%, recreation up 3.9%, personal care up 6.1%, and new vehicles up 2.5%. Now, this was according to what the BLS said. As the labor market tightened during 2021 and 2022, core inflation rose as a narration of job vacancies or to employment increase. Now, this ratio is used to measure wage pressures that then pass through the prices of goods and services. As workers bargain for better pay, firms begin to increase prices. Researchers have found three main components to explain the rise in inflation since 2020. Volatility of energy prices, backlogs of work orders for goods and service caused by supply chain issues due to COVID-19, and price changes in the auto-related industries. To ensure the question of where inflation is headed, the authors point to two factors: the relationship between vacancies and unemployment and long-term inflation expectations, because the Federal Reserve terms inflation by increasing interest rates. Now, researchers forecast the December 2024 inflation level to range from 2.3 to 4.8%. Now, this is really affecting people because they need to keep up, hence leading to people looking for more jobs just to sustain them. People are now not spending time with their families because they have to work. They need to put food on the table. Both the husband and wife working to keep it going. So many things that people are engaging just for them to, sustain themselves. And we don't know if this will get better. But feel free to share your own thoughts on this. From me to bye-bye, and see you in my next video.